The best card of the year is on our doorsteps, and it's time for me to break down and predict every single fight on this card. I am known for sweeping the Abu Dhabi cards. I'm known for doing exceptionally well on them, so make sure to really listen to these predictions. I'm very confident in my predictions this time around, and I believe that you guys can understand why this time. That's because it seems like the main event's just kind of a wrap. At this point, Ilia Topuria is going in there to get his belt. Well, Max Holloway, no, stay tuned for the main prediction, because I may throw a curveball in there. Max Holloway, apparently he got the Real Food Cookbook. Now, I understand that's not really a game changer necessarily on the week of the fight, but apparently he got the Real Food Cookbook. It was shipped to him last week. And apparently Max Holloway's made some gains. Nah, I mean, that's just something that I've been told that may not be 100% true. But if you guys are interested, code MMA for 15% off. Get that Real Food Cookbook, man. But either way, I can't wait for this card. Nonetheless, Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. This card is stacked. It's unbelievably stacked. Robert Whittaker, Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, you guys know, we lost the Gon and Alexander Volkov fight, but, you know, this card is still unbelievable. Top to bottom, even starting with the first fight of the night. I mean, let's get into this. Oh, not this one. Let's get into this, all right? Aslan versus Rafael Cerqueira. You got to go with Aslan. I mean, he's just 13-1. He's got the Khabib 13 wins, 1 loss, unfortunately, and Rafael Cerqueira is 0-0. We don't even have a photo of this guy right now, so we literally do not know anything about him. And I understand that Rafael Cerqueira could be, I mean, there's a very unlikely chance this is the case, but he could be a killer. I mean, this guy could have a record of 14-1. He could, be like this marauder on the come up or whatever, but Aslan, I've seen this guy fight in the Dana White Contender Series. I've seen him have his UFC debut. And I'm going to trust in Aslan, 13-1, and it's like, until I see someone actually perform all right in the UFC, because if Rafael Cerqueira was really making noise, all right, if this guy was really making noise, we might have a photo of him. Okay, so I'm going to go with Aslan. I'm going to pick him to win this one just based on having that a little, he's got that extra experience. He's been under the bright lights. This is a terrible prediction, but, I'm going to pick him to win this fight nonetheless. Let's actually get serious now. Okay, because we know both of these guys, Nursulton Ruziboev, Rinat Fakhretdinov, it seemed like at one point this guy was going to be a problem to everybody in the division, almost like, okay, this is someone that's going to beat everybody, until we've seen him, but now we've seen him struggle with Nicolas Dalby, and we've seen him have a war with Dos Santos, okay? Aleksandar Dos Santos. Since then, Rinat's still good, but he is beatable, okay? We've seen chinks in his armor. We've seen him slow down. His cardio is not perfect, but now he's really getting a real test. Now he's getting a real test because he's fought the Brian Battles, and he's fought the CEO VPO Part 3, Nicolas Dalby. He has fought, who is the other guy that I just mentioned? Aleksandar Dos Santos, just a tough vet. But now he's going in there against an EV for the first time, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to take him down. I mean, Nursulton is a real tough battle. I'm kind of joking around here, guys. I'm just acting like because of the EV Boyev that he is this next level grappler. Joaquin Buckley took him down multiple times, beat him up on the ground, had a pitch perfect performance against him. Joaquin Buckley's really good, but I think Rinat Fakhretdinov can take him down. Rinat Fakhretdinov is big for this division. He's very big for this division. He's very powerful for this division. And to be honest, Nursulton Ruziboev, outside of a 1-2, I mean, he doesn't really have a whole lot to offer on the feet. He's not the best striker. He still seems very green on the feet. He doesn't seem so comfortable on the feet. and his grappling off of his back, it's not really all that there. He was getting beat up badly by Joaquin Buckley, and I've seen what Rinat Fakhretdinov has done to people like Brian Battle. And, of course, this guy's got ridiculous power on the feet. He drops damn near everyone he fights. So I think Rinat Fakhretdinov is going to go in there. I think he's going to have the striking advantage. He just seems to be a lot more comfortable on the feet. And because he has that threat of the takedown, and because Nursulton Ruziboev knows that he can be taken down after that Buckley fight, and he's going in there against an Ovi, that it's going to be on his mind. And that's going to open up Rinat Fakhretdinov's boxing. So I think this is a really bad matchup for Nursulton Ruziboev. I am going to pick Rinat Fakhretdinov. I'm going to pick him to win this via a TKO on the ground, or maybe a submission. Okay? I think he's going to get this one done. Nursulton, again, 34-9. He's got a lot of experience, but he just still seems a little bit green on the feet. He didn't even look that good when he fought Cedric Dumas, so I am going to pick Rinat. I think Rinat's going to get that one done. Let's get on to the next one. Old man Bruno Silva versus Ismael Naurdiev. Ismael Naurdiev, it's like, when's the last time we've seen this guy? Now, right away, look at the screen. You're probably thinking to yourself, Dana White Contender Series, because he's damn near black and white. No, there's actually some color there. He's wearing Reebok shorts. Ismael Naurdiev is wearing Reebok shorts. There's a hint of color there in the photo, which means that that's not a Dana White Contender Series photo. That's just a guy that's not fought in 4 years. Ismael Naurdiev, he has not fought since 2020. I guess he's had problems with injuries. He's been very inactive, and he is a bit of a decision merchant, which is not the best. Now, he's not an old man yet. He's not old. Bruno Silva's getting up there. He's taking a lot of damage. Bruno's got more miles on him, but he's been a lot more active. Okay, and even though we've seen him have some bad performances where he's getting dropped by Gerald Meerschaert, and he's getting totally made to look like a fool against Brendan Allen, this is a big step down in competition. Ring rust is going to be to the nines for Ismael. And again, he's a bit of a decision merchant. 4 fights in the UFC, no finishes. I think Bruno Silva's going to get this one done. I think Bruno Silva's going to dig deep. I think he's going to figure out Ismael as the fight goes on, and I see him just sort of taking over, being able to make adjustments. Now, there are moments where Bruno Silva looks very sloppy, and he kind of gets carried away looking for a finish. But he knows how to impose his will, and I think he understands the situation that he's in. He's fighting a guy that's not fought for years. EV, okay, he's probably anticipating a takedown. He's going to be somewhat patient because of that early. I think he's not going to expend all of his energy in the first round, and I think he's just going to come on strong in the second and third. I'm going to go with Bruno Silva by a decision. All right, I'm going with the vet. Let's get on to the next one. The Basharat brothers are just absolute marauders. Farid Basharat. Am I seeing this correctly? 12-0. How is this guy still 12-0? I feel like he got beat by Zahabi's brother, Ayman Zahabi, or was that his brother? That must have been his brother. That was on the Shamil Gaziev card last winter. Okay, that was on the Umar Nurmagomedov Blabiev card. Victor Hugo versus Farid Basharat. Victor Hugo is actually pretty decent on the feet. He's got much better striking than the Basharat bros. This is the undefeated Basharat, but the last Basharat was the actual, sort of better Basharat, the one that got beat, Javid Basharat. Farid Basharat, again, the Basharat bros have been in the same position forever. They've, to be honest, they're not really getting any hype. I used to talk about the Basharat bros getting hype because they did get a little bit of hype from hardcore fans. I think people have finally caught on, so let's not sit here and act like... I'm not going to pretend that there's this huge fan base that's just getting behind them, because that's just not the case. But it is kind of interesting how he's 12-0. These guys have had a lot of fights in the UFC, and they're still getting the Victor Hugos. They're getting the Grant Dawson treatment. I'm going to go with Victor Hugo to win this fight. Now, of course, Farid could go out there, take down Victor Hugo, and just kind of pebble punch him. I think that's a new thing that we're going to start saying is pebble punches. Max Holloway's got the fruity pebble punches, but Farid Basharat has like legitimate pebble power. So he's going to be landing his little pebble punches. When I say pebble punches, just imagine a punch. No real, you're not really getting any serious momentum. Okay. You're just lifting the wrist up and just, tapping away. That's what Farid Basharat's going to be doing. But I think Victor Hugo is going to beat him up on the feet as this thing lasts on the feet. I think Victor Hugo is going to be able to make good work on the feet. I'm going to go with Victor Hugo just based on having the striking alone. He's fast. He's somewhat powerful. He's got a lot of experience. And, this is a very risky pick, but I'm going to pick Victor Hugo. I just don't think that the Basharat brothers have enough power. I don't think that they have that grit that's kind of needed when you're in there with a guy that's got really good Muay Thai. So I'm going to go with Victor Hugo to win this fight over Farid Basharat. But don't be surprised if Basharat takes him down. Let's get on to the next one. Light heavyweight skill versus Justin Tafa. Something has happened to the Tafa brothers, okay? Because, 2023, Justin Tafa's on the Adesanya Strickland card, and he's getting a KO. And the month prior, his brother, Junior Tafa, is on the Holloway TKZ card, and he's getting a KO. And these guys are looking like world beaters. They're looking like, they're the new Tai Tuivasas in this division. And since then, Justin Tafa getting out-grappled by a lot of heavyweights, and Junior Tafa, like, gassing out easily. And now he's going in there to fight Kennedy Nzechukwu. And don't get me wrong, Kennedy Nzechukwu, sometimes it seems like a gust of wind can knock him out. Okay, he's not known for his chin. But he is a light heavyweight. He is in good shape. And yes, there is something to be said about the Pacific Islander genes where, even though Junior Tafa gassed out badly and both of these guys don't have great gas tanks, Justin Tafa is in better shape than like a Mick Parkin. You know what I mean? Like for him, he's in better shape than a Mick Parkin. He gets some leeway. He has some leeway because of the Pacific Islander genes. But still, Kennedy Nzechukwu is in shape for light heavyweight. He's moving up to heavyweight. He's going to have a huge speed advantage. He's going to have a skill advantage. He's going to have a grappling advantage. We've seen this guy submit people. And if you're getting taken down by Carl Williams, I know Kennedy Nzechukwu is not like grappling is not his bread and butter, but he can take you down, okay? And I think he can make easy work of Justin Tafa. I think Kennedy Nzechukwu is going to take down Justin Tafa and submit him. That's my prediction. Kennedy's going to get it done by submission. I could see him knocking Tafa out as well. And I could also see Tafa KOing Kennedy. As we said, Kennedy Nzechukwu doesn't have the best chin, but also Justin Tafa just has ridiculous power. He's also got very good body kicks as well. But I think we're going to see a divisional skill gap on display. Like just primetime divisional skill gap. The perfect example. Nzechukwu is just going to be running circles around him, teeping him at a distance, body kicking him, head kicking him, jabbing him up easily. Easily taking him down. And I think it's going to be either a 30-27 where Kennedy Nzechukwu just can't get the choke because Justin Tafa is hard to choke out or something like that, or he just twists him into a pretzel in the first round and gets him out of there. So I'm going to go with Kennedy Nzechukwu, mixing it up to get a 30-27 easy or getting a first-round submission. Let's get on to the next one. Abus Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. The first round is going to be a barn burner, that's for sure. First round is going to be all Abus. But is he going to get the finish? Bruno Ferreira has been TKO'd by Nursulton Ruziboev. But Nursulton Ruziboev is better at middleweight than he is at welterweight. You know what I mean? But I think that I'm going to pick Bruno Ferreira. Bruno Ferreira, very tough, very gritty. And he's had his moments where he's gotten beat up early on in fights, and he comes back after getting, almost finished and just grits down in the mouthpiece, pushes forward, and just like puts it on his opponents. There's no quit in this guy. Whereas Abus Magomedov, we've seen him gas out harder than anyone else. Abus Magomedov has one of the worst gas tanks in the UFC. It's just true. Even though he's fast early and he is very good early and he does have some grappling, fair enough, he lost to... Who was it that he lost to recently? Was it Cal Barajo? I did pick Abus to beat Cal Barajo, to be honest. But, he did take a round off of him, and this is a step down. This is actually a significant step down from a Cal Barajo. I'm going to pick Bruno Ferreira nonetheless, because I just think that unless Abus finishes Bruno Ferreira, he's going to get KO'd, because Ferreira does have that like ability to impose his will. He's always looking for a finish. He has heavy hands. I'm going to pick Bruno Ferreira second or third round KO when Abus starts to fade, because I do believe it's just a matter of time. Like if Bruno survives the first round, Abus is a husk of his first round self. So I'm going to go with Bruno Ferreira when Abus gasses out. Let's get on to the next one. Daniel Santos versus Said Nurmagomedov. Said Nurmagomedov's in a weird spot, because it's like no matter what this guy does, he's sort of like he's kind of like the Fluffy Hernandez of bantamweight. I made an Aura video a couple days ago, and I talked about how Magomed Ankalaev is getting the UFC's protecting the champ type of aura. And I said, well, he's sort of like the dark horse of number one contenders in the UFC. Said Nurmagomedov is like a typical dark horse. You know what I mean? He's sort of like Fluffy Hernandez. Fluffy Hernandez, it's taken him forever to get a ranked fight. Said Nurmagomedov's had 1 million fights. He's had 1 million layups. It's time to get this guy a bump up in competition. And I still think he beat Jonathan Martinez. I really still think he beat Jonathan Martinez. I'm going to pick Said Nurmagomedov by any way he wants, really. I mean, this is an easy fight for him. Daniel Santos, he's a shoot box guy. He's gonna impose his will, but I just think Said's gonna destroy him when it comes to the striking, and he has the submission ability. I'll go with a typical Said Nurmagomedov, rocking his opponent and then wrapping them up in a submission on the feet. Maybe like a guillotine or something like that. Said Nurmagomedov's going to be landing question mark kicks, and he's going to be landing Superman punches and spinning wheel kicks, and he's going to just transition one of those kicks, flashy kicks, into like a submission. Said Nurmagomedov, easy finish, first round. Again, he always gets it done pretty easily when he has these layup type of fights, but let's get him a bump up in competition next time. But yeah, he's easily going to get that one done. Now, this is an interesting matchup. This is one of the most competitive fights. This is similar to like a dark horse matchup. This is kind of like a Hernandez-Kopylov situation. Both guys are really good prospects. Mateusz Rebecki, I thought Mateusz Rebecki was guaranteed to be in the top 5 someday. I don't know about that anymore. He fought who? Ferreira last time? And got beat up badly. He still looked okay in that fight, but because a lot of us expected him to dominate and he got pieced up by the old vet, we were kind of let down, and it didn't look that, well, of course he lost. How is that going to look impressive? But to be fair, that was the best version of Ferreira that we've ever seen, the one that Mateusz Rebecki fought. Like, it honestly seemed like he was a totally different fighter. Now Rebecki's going in there against Maitek Odolbai, coming off of a win over Elvis Brenner. Okay, he was outstriking Elvis Brenner and piecing him up early. Maitek Odolbai has a really good game, all right? He's kind of like a higher output Mateusz Rebecki, pushes people up against the fence, but he's got a really long, wiry jab. He does have a lot of power. He dropped Elvis Brenner a couple of times in that fight, and we saw the grappling. This guy has ridiculous grappling. Now, it's going to be difficult for him to out-grapple Mateusz Rebecki. I think Rebecki is a better grappler than Elvis Brenner. He's a lot stronger. He's more compact. He's kind of like got the Volk build at lightweight. But I just think Maitek Odolbai has got a better gas tank. You know what I mean? Like, he is tough too. He's very tough. He's got a good chin. He's got a better gas tank than Rebecki. Like, don't get me wrong. Maitek Odolbai, I've seen him slow down. He slowed down against Elvis Brenner. He was dominating Brenner early, and then he started to slow down a little bit, and then the takedowns on Brenner started to fail a little bit more as the fight went on. And then in the third round, it was very close, but Maitek Odolbai landed the knockdown. Now he's in there against Mateusz Rebecki, who is a savage on the ground, like really good grappler, very strong. I've seen Rebecki fade. This is a very evenly matched fight. Both guys are phenomenal grapplers. Both guys are really good strikers. Rebecki's got the T-Rex arms, 66-inch reach at lightweight. Maitek Odolbai, 74-inch reach. Really good jab. I think Odolbai is going to get this one done on Aura. Okay? I think he's going to get this one done. He's got the Aura edge, right? He's just got the built different sort of thing, right? Rebecki's good, but there's something to be said about momentum. Rebecki took a lot of damage in his last fight. He looked like Benoit Saint Denis at the end of it. One of his eyes was all messed up. Not that bad, but, he kind of got a bad beating. Maitek Odolbai is coming off of a win. over Elvis Brenner, which is a really phenomenal win. And then before that, he beat Uros Medic, which is also a great win. So I think that based on the momentum, I don't see Mateusz Rebecki taking down Orobai. I could see Orobai sort of out-grappling Rebecki as the fight goes on, and I just think I'm going to go with Orobai. He's got good power. He's got a really good jab. I think he can keep Rebecki at range. I think Orobai is just a difficult matchup for Rebecki. Like, Rebecki needs to be able to out-grapple someone, or he's got to be able to knock someone out and kind of bully them around. I don't see anyone bullying Maitek Orobai around. He's got the pain tolerance, man. I talked about it in the Aura video. He's got that pain tolerance, man. I mean, this guy could fall off of a fucking mountain and he'll scratch his back, as if nothing happened when he gets back up. Nothing happens to Maitek Orobai. I'm going to go with him based on just unbelievable toughness. Again, this is going to be a phenomenal fight. One of the most exciting fights on this card, very evenly matched. I'm not sure about this one. You can't be so sure about this one. 19-2 for Mateusz Rebecki, 13-1. Unbelievable fight. Geoff Neal, Rafael dos Anjos is a good fight, but Orobai, Mateusz Rebecki, that's the best fight so far on this card that we've talked about. Geoff Neal and Rafael dos Anjos. How is Rafael dos Anjos still ranked in some of these divisions is my question. I'm going to go with Geoff Neal. I think RDA is pretty good. I still think RDA is pretty tough as well. We saw him drop Mateusz Gamrot. RDA is showing some pop. He's always kind of been the guy that sort of strings punches together. He's got like the stringy punching power, right? And he's sort of crafty. RDA, he'll get you in the clinch and he'll land a couple of knees to the thighs. And, he kind of knows what the judges are looking for. But Geoff Neal's a clinch guy. So Geoff Neal is one of these frustrating fighters where we know he's got unbelievable boxing. We know he's willing to go and have like a gritty brawl sometimes. But every now and then you'll see Geoff Neal just grab hold of his opponent and just clinch them and do absolutely nothing with it. No takedowns, no great clinch striking, just controlling his opponents up against the fence. I don't know if it's to get a breather, but Geoff Neal is very frustrating to watch. Whereas Rafael dos Anjos, he seems to be a little bit more active in the clinch, and that's a crafty vet. I don't know if Geoff Neal should be bringing RDA into the clinch. Now, fair enough. RDA got taken down against Vicente Luque 20 times in the clinch. And, just because he's crafty doesn't mean, he can't just be totally annihilated. He's been annihilated in the clinch before. I think Geoff Neal's just going to beat him up on the feet. I think Geoff Neal and RDA, this is going to be a bit of a clinch fest at times, but I just see Geoff Neal, he's younger than RDA. He's faster than RDA. RDA still is pretty tough. He does have a good chin. He's very difficult to finish. Last time he was finished was Fiziev. And before that, RDA's hardly ever been finished. So Geoff Neal, I think he's just going to get this one done by putting a little bit of damage on RDA. I think this is going to be a bad beating. I feel like we're going to get a classic Geoff Neal showcase. You don't know what you're going to get from Geoff Neal. Every once in a while, you'll get like a Geoff Neal, Ian Gary fight where there's a whole lot of clinching and the striking exchanges are a little bit of a letdown, even though Gary is just really good at keeping distance. Or like a Magny fight where Geoff Neal and Magny are, just clinching for 15 minutes and it's a totally shit fight and you expect it to be fireworks because you just saw him KO Mike Perry. This is going to be one of those fights where you're sleeping on Geoff Neal because when someone fights RDA, you usually don't expect fireworks, at least not these days. RDA is not really fireworks anymore. But I think Geoff Neal's going to have a good performance. I think he's going to let his hands go, and I think he's going to beat up RDA on the feet. Just have a power advantage, speed advantage, and he's got good takedown defense. RDA's got good grappling, but I don't see him taking down Geoff Neal. Shavkat Rakhmonov wasn't able to do it. I don't think RDA is going to be able to do it. Geoff Neal will get this one done by a decision. Sharab Magomedov versus Arman Petrosyan. This is a great fight. Good step up in competition. Perfect step up in competition. Sharab Magomedov, he's not really exceeded our expectations. All right. Now, he's not lost yet in the UFC. He's not been totally fraud checked, but he's been a little bit underwhelming. All right, Shara's got unbelievable output. He's got amazing technique, some of the best looking kicks in the upper weight classes. The only issue is he's got no pop. Now, yes, he just knocked out his last opponent. Fair enough. But his last opponent was basically making his UFC debut horrible on the feet and basically looked like his controller. And batteries died. in the middle of that fight in front of Magomedov and then got TKO'd in the third round. He was kind of a sitting duck. Magomedov does not have a lot of power, so he can land at will, and he's just not going to be able to hurt you that easily. But then again, we always say that sometimes, and then they go out there and they knock out their opponent, right? But I do think he has better output than Armen Petrosyan, and I do think he's got decent cardio, and I am going to pick him to beat Armen Petrosyan. Now, Petrosyan's very good on the feet. He's got real good striking, and this is definitely the best striker Shara's fought, but I just think Shara's going to get it done, but I don't think it's going to be dominant. I do not think it's going to be dominant. I think it's going to be just by a hair that Magomedov is winning every single exchange. He's going to win on a little bit of output, landing more kicks, landing more combinations. So I'll go with Magomedov by decision. Got my brother Magomed Ankalaev versus Aleksandar Rakic. Now, Magomed's got something up his sleeve right now for this one. I don't want to talk about it too much, but there is something that Magomed and his team have planned, sort of like a secret move. You guys will know when you see it. You guys, maybe you won't, but if you see it, you'll know. Either way, Magomed Ankalaev is probably going to beat Aleksandar Rakic, but I'm dreading this fight. Now, I'm hyping up Magomed Ankalaev these days. I really do like Magomed Ankalaev. He has aura, okay? We can't deny it at this point. But I still don't think he beats Alex Pereira. Just because he is the second best fighter in this division, and there's no doubt about it, doesn't mean I think he beats Pereira. It's just I want to see the fight, okay? And he is starting to, become undeniably the second best fighter in this division. Why am I dreading this fight? Because I think it's going to be boring. Okay, now fair enough. One of the reasons why I think it's going to be boring is because back in the day, both of these guys had some of the most boring fights ever, and they had a common opponent, and that was Thiago Santos. And Thiago Santos just happened to be the most boring fighter in UFC history post John Jones messing up his leg. Until he fought Jamal Hill, that was a good fight, but he had like 3 horrible fights back to back to back. Against Magomed, against Rakic, against someone else. I forgot who the other guy was, but so maybe that's why I just have a feeling that these guys are often in boring fights, because if you really think about it, they're not really. I mean, Rakic, fair enough, against Yuri Prohaska, you're kind of forced to have a fun fight. But Magomed's not really had a lot of slow, boring fights recently. But if you watch the way that Magomed Ankalaev fought Johnny Walker, big, powerful light heavyweight that can knock you out, similar to Rakic, he spent the entire first round just kind of waiting back and making his reads, letting Johnny Walker show his cards. And I think we're going to see something similar. I think that when Magomed Ankalaev is in there with heavy power punchers, I'm not talking about Ion Cutelaba power punchers. Ion Cutelaba's got welterweight pop, okay? I'm talking about real light heavyweight power. I think Magomed Ankalaev, he's very reserved early. Now, as far as Rakic goes, Rakic is coming off of a loss. He took a shitload of damage. He knows Magomed Ankalaev has some power, and he knows that Magomed Ankalaev is elite. I don't think he's going to go out there and give Magomed, no respect. I think that if Rakic goes out there and fucking, just puts it on him and gives him no respect, even shoots a takedown on Magomed, because Rakic does have good grappling, and he's probably the biggest light heavyweight, very strong, I think he could potentially beat Magomed Ankalaev. Just kind of by, bulldozing him a little bit. But I think Rakic is going to give him respect. People tend to give Ankalaev respect. He's good at keeping distance. He's got good defense. He's not so easy to hit clean. And because of that, they tend to sort of, wait for the perfect shot on a guy like Magomed. And that allows Magomed to make his reads and then to just sort of pick and prod. Because Magomed Ankalaev's got really good kicks. We saw that against Johnny Walker. We've seen that in some of his other fights against Anthony Smith. Both of these guys fucked up Anthony Smith's legs. But Magomed Ankalaev has really good kicks and underrated kick defense. Now, I know that Jan Blachowicz had him, doing the Irish jig, but that's because it's Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz is a guy that goes shin to shin. No issue. You can check his kicks, no issue. He'll still hurt you. And he'll be willing to get his kicks checked, because he wins those exchanges nonetheless. But Magomed Ankalaev does have good leg kick defense. He was checking most of Johnny Walker's kicks. He was checking most of Anthony Smith's kicks. Okay? And in the Thiago Santos fight, he was doing a good job checking kicks. Rakic has really powerful kicks. He was messing up Yuri Prochazka. We've seen what he did to Anthony Smith. But Smith is always, like, unfortunately in these conversations as the guy that got his legs messed up. But either way, Rakic is not going to just easily land those kicks on Magomed, okay? It's going to be a slow fight. I fear it's going to be a slow fight, and I fear that there's going to be a lot of criticism, okay? I fear that this is going to be one of those really slow fights where Magomed wins by a hair, and it puts people to sleep, and people say, fuck Magomed Ankalaev, give Alex Pereira Yuri, something like that. Okay, even though him winning, he deserves a title shot, and his fight with Alex Pereira will be better. Some about this matchup, I just think it's going to be boring. Very difficult to pick this one because Rakic's boxing looked improved. But then again, it's Yuri Prochazka. Okay, Yuri Prochazka's got some of the worst boxing defense in the UFC. And Yuri Prochazka, in the first round of his fights these days, post that shoulder injury, tends to be Nico Price fast. You know, Yuri's lost all of his speed early on in fights, and then he just wakes up after you swivel his head around enough. But Rakic looked really crisp. It's going to be harder to hit Magomed. Magomed's got underrated setups. Okay, he's got underrated setups. He can switch stances and really, how can I say? Magomed's good at he's really good at making his reads, staying back, and then once you finish your combination, he's good at stepping forward while switching stances and throwing combinations. You know what I mean? Sort of like if you've watched the Peter Yan Uriah Hall knockdown, where Yan switches stances while he's throwing like a 4-piece combination. We've seen it with Masvidal when he knocked out Darren Till. Magomed Ankalaev is pretty good at that. He'll wait for you to make a mistake, and he'll just come through, 1 foot in front. This is like, you're listening to a fucking amateur when you're getting a breakdown like this, okay? You fucking know you're listening to some amateur. This is rusty kickboxing talking, okay? This is not a guy that just has won his 5th Golden Gloves tournament. This is rusty kickboxing. Now, boxing, we're talking serious. We're very different with boxing. But MMA, it's a little bit hard to break these things down. Magomed Ankalaev, man, you make a mistake. Magomed Ankalaev, he's following through. He's following through with the switch stance. He's got a really... It's sneaky. Magomed has this very tricky, wiry hook. Very tricky, wiry hook. And you don't expect it because he doesn't have a long reach. Rakic doesn't have the longest reach. He's got a 78-inch reach. That's pretty good for the light heavyweight division. Magomed Ankalaev's got these short arms. And we always make fun of him in sparring. We say short arm, because, that's how you kind of talk to the guy. They don't have the best English. Just call him short arm. And it's one of those things. But he's got a very sneaky, wiry hook because he's moving through you. He's switching stances, and he can still fuck you up. And I just see there could be a situation where Rakic is very hopped up. He's got this... Rakic has like the wide-eye energy. He's sort of a little bit nervous. He's got that nervousness. Now, that's that nervousness where, if you startle him, he'll jump up, he'll land a flying knee on you. And he'll put your head through the stadium roof. But I think with a guy like Magomed, who's just a little bit more composed, Rakic, who strikes me as a guy that's just got a little bit of the jitterbug energy early, a little bit jittery. I think we could see a Rakic wide-eyed moment where he realizes he makes the mistake and he's moving back, and Magomed's doing the old stance switch and coming around the top with a big old nasty hook. And sort of putting Rakic down. I hope that he gets the KO, but I think it's going to be a bit of a slow fight. I think it's going to be a Magomed Ankalaev shuts him down a little bit on the feet. As far as the grappling goes, I do not think Magomed Ankalaev is taking down Aleksandar Rakic. I don't think he's going to even attempt a takedown in this fight. He might. He might attempt one, but I don't think that's going to be his bread and butter game plan. People got to stop thinking Magomed is this dominant wrestler. He's got good wrestling, but it's not something that's, head and shoulders above any other decent grappler in this division. I think Aleksandar Rakic is probably on par with him. Rakic has good grappling. Could we see Rakic shoot a takedown? As I said earlier, if Rakic goes out there and just says, fuck it, I ain't respecting this guy, I'm going to bulldoze him, we could see something interesting. We could see maybe, Magomed Ankalaev's takedown defense get tested. I have a feeling Magomed Ankalaev doesn't have the best takedown defense. You know what I mean? If he's watching this, he knows what I'm talking about. I take this guy down a couple times, man. So he knows what we're talking about. But all jokes aside, the guy's a beast. I'm gonna go with Magomed Ankalaev. I think it's gonna be a bit of a slow, lackluster fight until there's a big moment. And I think Magomed is going to have the big moment. This is going to... So I'm going to change my prediction. I think it's going to be a little bit boring, but I think Magomed just knows how to slow things down a little bit. Right? Anthony Smith was talking that big talk going into the Magomed Ankalaev fight. He was saying, people talk about this guy like he's King Kong. I'm going to burn that octagon on fire. Like, I'm going to set it on fire when I go in there. And no one's going to stop me. And then he goes out there and he's playing patty cake with Magomed Ankalaev in the first round. He's going out there and they're exchanging parries. They're like parrying each other's lead hands for 5 minutes. Magomed will do that to you. Magomed will do that to you. And he's got a speed advantage over most of these guys. He's very fast. So I think it's going to be one of those situations where both guys, Rakic is going to respect him a little bit too much. Whereas I feel like Rakic should not let the Magomed aura get to him, because Magomed's got that low-key aura. He shouldn't let it get to him, because that's his way to win, in my opinion. Just sort of say, fuck it, like, this guy's not special, I'm going to beat his ass, But, like, this is like the I see red advice, but still. I think that Rakic is going to be a little bit too respecting of Magomed Ankalaev. I think he's going to be respecting him a lot. And I think Magomed Ankalaev is going to be a little bit faster, a little bit cleaner. He's going to be landing the investment strikes, poking and prodding, sort of lulling Aleksandar Rakic into thinking that it's just going to be a tit-for-tat battle. It's going to look like a bit of a sparring match. And then, here's my prediction. Second round, third round, there's going to be people yawning. In this, you're going to see a couple of the white robes. You're going to see a couple of the people. They're going to be walking to get cheese. Whatever the heck people eat, man. They're going to be going to get their Fritos, bro. Like, whatever the fuck. Nachos, man. They're going to be getting their nachos. They're just going to be getting their food, their hot dogs, whatever. You're going to see a couple of those guys get up. You're going to see people, scurrying up the stairs. And then all of a sudden, you're going to hear, oh! And you're going to have looked away from the screen. You're going to be yawning, and you're going to hear a big on the canvas, and it's going to be Aleksandar Rakic flopping on the deck like a fish. Okay? That's my official prediction for Magomed Ankalaev and Aleksandar Rakic. Magomed Ankalaev, second and third round, people start falling asleep. He's going to catch him. He's putting him out. After that damage that he took against Yuri, Rakic took like he took a weird amount of damage. He took like Yuri Prochazka beat him up, but didn't put him to sleep, right? But Rakic was out on his feet and just sort of out of it for about 20 seconds, where he wasn't really defending himself that well, and Yuri was just beating his ass. And that's a lot of damage. I think one big shot from Magomed Ankalaev, second, third round, he's gonna drop like a sack of potatoes. It's gonna be a crazy moment. So I think Magomed's gonna get it done. Let's get on to the next one. Lerone Murphy, Dan Ige. This is a really good fight as well. Lerone Murphy, he proved me wrong last time, because I said he was going to get beat up by Edson Barboza. I said Edson Barboza just showcasing the craftiest performance of his entire life. The craftiest performance I've ever seen last year, right? When he fought, Sadiq Youssef. Showed us everything, every adjustment you could possibly make when going through adversity. Edson Barboza made it, and I said that, you know what, Lerone Murphy's not going to impose his will. He's one of these UK guys that grapples when he should be striking. He's striking when he should be grappling. He's getting in his own way. He's not super tough. He doesn't really impose his will. And then he goes out there and he wins a grit battle against Edson Barboza and just outgrits him, pieces him up, marches him down, looks to be the guy that's relying on his toughness. And now I look at him as a different fighter because his striking looked pretty good. His output looked good. His toughness looked good. Now he's going in there against a much more durable fighter, though. Right? Edson Barboza, as fast as he still is, as, much of a vet as he is not that durable these days, right? Edson Barboza sort of jitters around. It's like he's on those springs. He's like, Kamaru Usman, he's got the wobbly knees. And you just look at him in his stance and you just think, okay, if he gets hit with a good shot, like he's going to bobble around. Not Dan Ige, though. Dan Ige, he's the short, he's stocky, and he's one of those guys kind of rooted into the ground. You just know that if this thing gets into the third round, Dan Ige could be beating up Lerone Murphy. Look at what he was doing to Diego Lopez. That was a competitive fight. Diego Lopez hits harder than Lerone Murphy. Okay, now I know Diego took that on short notice, but so did Dan Ige, and fair enough, Dan Ige was like a couple weeks out of his fight. That means he was in peak condition without suffering on the weight cut yet. So he kind of just cruised into that weight cut. But still, Ige's very tough. Lerone Murphy does not have Diego Lopez power. And Dan Ige's got good cardio, and I'm going to pick him to win this fight. I think Lerone Murphy, he's got a lot of advantages. He's got the reach advantage. I think he's going to have a slight grappling advantage early, but Dan Ige's grappling is improved. I mean, again, beating up Diego Lopez badly. I mean, things were getting ugly for Diego Lopez. And Dan Ige, he's been in a lot of these 5-round main events, Calvin Kattar, TKZ. He's fought Josh Emmett. He's fought the who's who of this division, right? And he never really gets blown out of the water. All of his fights are very competitive, and I think that at this point, he's kind of at his peak. I think this is like the best version of Dan Ige. Last year's Dan Ige, this year's Dan Ige. I think he's just going to be able to win this just by being... I think the best version of Dan Ige ever is going to be good enough to hold off Lerone Murphy, okay? I think in order to beat Dan Ige right now, I think you got to have a little bit of extra pop on the feet. You have to have something special. And I think Lerone Murphy, he won that last fight against Barboza with just pure toughness and output. But I just think Dan Ige is going to hurt him. I think Dan Ige is going to hurt him. He's going to find his moments. Yeah, I think Ige is going to get this one done by a KO. I'll go with Dan Ige by KO. I could see, maybe Lerone Murphy could piece him up with the jab, keep him at range, and then take him down and kind of frustrate him. I could definitely see... You know what? Actually, I think I'm going to go with Lerone Murphy. I think I'm biased. I kind of want Dan Ige to win. I kind of want Ige to win, and I'm sort of justifying it, but I could actually see Lerone Murphy winning this because I think he could mix it up better. Let's see, who was out-grappling Dan Ige last time? Bryce Mitchell out-grappled him, but it was tough to get Dan Ige down. I think Lerone Murphy actually gets it done. I'm changing my pick. I'm gonna go with Lerone Murphy. I think he's going to be able to piece up Ige a little bit at range, and I do think he's going to mix in the takedowns this fight. I do think he's going to mix it up. He kind of struggled to take Edson Barboza down, though. It's a very tough fight. I'm gonna go with Lerone Murphy, 29-28. All right, I'll go with Lerone Murphy. But that's a very tough fight to pick. Whittaker versus Chimaev. Guys, I know Chimaev has aura. I know that even though he had a disappointing performance against Kamaru Usman, that doesn't mean that there still weren't moments where he impressed us. For example, just taking down Usman whenever he wanted and keeping him down is impressive in and of itself. But this is easy for me. I'm picking Robert Whittaker, and there's no doubt in my mind. Now, when I say there's no doubt in my mind, there's no doubt on who I'm picking. I think Chimaev can beat Robert Whittaker. And if you're picking him, I don't think you're crazy, but I'm sorry, man. Khamzat Chimaev, when he has fought the elite fighters, Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman, yes, he came close to finishes in the first round. He hasn't got them. Khamzat Chimaev has never finished an elite fighter in the first round. And Robert Whittaker, even though he's a middleweight, and we talk about the divisional skill gap, Gilbert Burns is a ridiculously good defensive grappler, and he's got welterweight skill. And Kamaru Usman, really good defensive grappler, and he's got welterweight skill. Listen, Robert Whittaker is one of the most skilled middleweights ever. And Khamzat Chimaev, he's got the former welterweight skill, fair enough. You know what? I don't think Khamzat Chimaev is submitting Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker does have good takedown defense. Now, Whittaker's takedown defense may not be legendary in this fight like it was against Yoel Romero back in the day and some other fighters like Jacare or whatever, but Robert Whittaker's takedown defense is still really good. And I think he's going to put up a fight because this is the thing. Whittaker is explosive. Robert Whittaker does his best work in these like quick burst moments. He's an explosive fighter. You know, that's how he TKO'd Ikram Aleksandar, just being faster and more explosive. Whittaker, that's how he implements his game as best as possible. And I think if he knows that Khamzat's going to come running at him from the moment the fight starts, and maybe Khamzat has a slight grappling skill advantage when it comes to jiu-jitsu, and he's insanely strong, and he's relentless, I think that Robert Whittaker is the perfect kind of athlete to fend off a takedown early. I think he's the perfect athlete to fend off a takedown. He's a quick twitch, very explosive fighter. And I still think he's going to get taken down in the first round. I just think he's going to make Chimaev work. That's what I'm saying. Robert Whittaker had a whole training camp for Ikram Aleksandar, an OV. Okay? An entire training camp for Ikram Aleksandar. Now he's, well, not for Ikram, actually. He had a whole training camp for Chimaev, and Ikram filled in. He was doing a lot of wrestling. He was doing a lot of grappling. And he looked amazing in that fight. He just had another training camp preparing for this wrestler. Robert Whittaker is getting back to his roots. And I think he's going to make Khamzat Chimaev really, really work hard for that takedown. And I think that by the time Khamzat gets the takedown, I think half the clock is going to be burnt out, maybe more. I think we're going to be 3 minutes into the round. And I think Robert Whittaker is going to be able to defend a submission. And I think when that round ends, I think because Robert Whittaker made him work so hard, Khamzat Chimaev is going to be a shell of who he is in the first round. I think he's going to gas out. We already know his immune system is a little bit compromised. That's just how it is. Okay? That's just how it is. This guy, unfortunately, it sucks to say this, but it just seems true. His career has been plagued by a bad immune system. Really bad weight cuts. You know, he got sick back in the day, had to take a lot of time off. And now this is the second time he's going to be cutting weight. To be fair, I don't think he was sick going into the Usman fight, but he gassed out. And I think a lot of our questions over the years have been, you know, what's Khamzat going to look like if he can't get a finish in the first round because he's finishing everybody? There's no way he can keep up this pace for 5 rounds. This is a 5-round fight that we're talking about. And, you know, he's still good. In the second and third round, he's still good. He was in there with Usman, and he was able to take Usman down. But let's be honest, Usman was giving him a fuckload of respect. He wasn't really marching him down until the end of the second round and the third round. That's a 5-round fight. I think Kamaru Usman could beat Khamzat Chimaev and TKO him. Okay, and that's a short notice Usman. I think Robert Whittaker is a lot more dangerous right now than Kamaru Usman. Okay? Because Robert Whittaker has been sort of changing his style to be more aggressive, whereas back in the day, he was like the elusive, you know, guy on the back foot that sort of pop shotting you every now and then. We started talking about him as having these pillow hands. In his last 2 fights, he's standing in the middle of the octagon and brawling with Paulo Costa. He is, you know, going after Ikram Aleksandar and hunting him down. And he's gotten his first finish since 2017, which is going to do wonders for his confidence. And he knows he's got good takedown defense. And I just think that this is a 5-round fight. Khamzat Chimaev is going to win the first round. There's no doubt about that. Whittaker's going to be on the defensive. I think in the second, third, fourth, fifth, guess what Khamzat Chimaev was able to do to Kamaru Usman in the second and third round? Absolutely fucking nothing on the ground. Couldn't do anything to him. Khamzat Chimaev, we talk about him as the most dangerous grappler of all time. Sometimes, okay? We used to say shit like that. Mike Tyson of grappling. You know, Tyson knocks everyone out in the first minute. Khamzat Chimaev submits everyone. You would at least expect Khamzat Chimaev, okay, he takes down Kamaru Usman in the second and third. Well, he's obviously going to beat him up. He's obviously going to take his back. Khamzat Chimaev wasn't landing ground and pound. He wasn't putting Usman in bad positions in the second and third round of their fight. To me, that's a sign that he gassed out. Because on the feet, he was hardly throwing anything. Fair enough, he broke his hand. How about the other hand? How about the 2 legs? Throw some kicks. He wasn't doing a whole lot. He gassed out a little bit, man. And Usman was winning those exchanges, those brawling exchanges. Now, of course, Khamzat's got power. He can knock out Robert Whittaker. That's for sure. But I think Khamzat's going to slow down. And if this fight ends, this fight leaves the first round, I favor Whittaker. I think Whittaker's the type of guy where his takedown defense is going to get better as the fight progresses. I think he's going to gain confidence after that first round, knowing he didn't get finished. And Whittaker's mentality has changed a little bit since the Dricus du Plessis fight. He said he struggled with the physicality of Dricus du Plessis and the relentless pressure of Dricus du Plessis. And that's why we saw such a tough version of Robert Whittaker, or I should say like a guy that's willing to take damage and meet it head on in his last two fights. I think Whittaker wins this on the feet. Whittaker's a better striker than Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev, yeah, I know he submitted Kevin Holland. I know he submitted Li Jingliang, and I know he KO'd Gerald Meerschaert. He's very good. He is elite, but he's not the guy. And this is going to make me look stupid if he actually finishes Robert Whittaker in the first round. I used to think that Khamzat Chimaev was going to hit his prime. And because he was finishing these guys that were like right outside of the rankings or high in the rankings, like 10 through 15, that once he hit his prime, he would be able to do that to the best guys in the world. Since we've seen him actually fight two of the best guys in the world, Burns, Usman, Whittaker's around that level, he's not been able to get these guys out of there. He's not finishing them in the first round. I think there's a lot of pressure on Khamzat. I think there's a lot of pressure on him. And I don't know if he plays the long game. I don't know if he goes out there and changes his game plan up and says, you know, I'm not going to run after Whittaker early. I'm going to take my time in this one. I think what makes Khamzat so good is that he's dangerous with his relentless pressure, his physicality. I think if he doesn't do that, I don't think he's nearly as dangerous. I don't think he's got nearly as many tools up his sleeve like a Robert Whittaker. And I think he's going to slow down. And I think he's going to get worse as the fight goes on. Imagine this in the fourth and fifth. Imagine this in the fourth and fifth round. Yeah, fair enough. Khamzat brawled with Gilbert Burns back in the day, but that was hungry Khamzat. That was hungry Khamzat. Now Khamzat's chilling in Dubai, man. Okay? I don't know. And to be fair, I think his immune system, it messes with him a little bit. So I'm going with Whittaker. I think Whittaker's going to get this one done by a TKO. Fourth or fifth round TKO. I could look real stupid. Khamzat could go out there and take Whittaker down, but I just think Whittaker's the perfect athlete to fend off those takedowns early, at least make him work and make him expend a lot of energy, make Khamzat's life miserable when going for that takedown early. Okay? And Khamzat's going to push for it just to prove a point nonetheless. That's going to be what leads to his demise. Okay? Because Khamzat Chimaev is going to push so hard for that takedown. He's going to push so hard for the submission. Whittaker knows he's on the defensive. And Whittaker knows, let's wait for this guy to expend his energy, and then we'll start hunting him down. And I think that's what we're going to see. Maybe Khamzat smokes Whittaker with a right hand. I could also see that's something like a Usman and Masvidal right hand. That's always possible with Whittaker. People have, made him do the Irish jig before. And Khamzat's got a lot of power, but he's been inactive. Whittaker's been active. I think Whittaker gets it done. So let's get on to the next one. Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway. I can't wait for this one. I cannot wait for this one. I watched Ilia Topuria's fight with Volk again. I've seen that fight a million times. Great fight, underrated fight. And the first thing I'm going to say is people need to stop saying that Alexander Volkanovski was not a good version of himself. Like, fair enough, he came off of a KO and he shouldn't have been fighting only 4 months after he got KO'd or 3.5 months after he got KO'd. But if you just watch the way Volkanovski looked in that fight, Volkanovski looked very fast and he was mixing it up really well. And people were saying Volkanovski was too timid. He wasn't pushing the action. You're not supposed to fucking push the action against Ilia Topuria if you're Volkanovski. People act like Volkanovski's always been this like guy that moves forward. He's had his fights where he's on the back foot, where he's playing the matador. Okay, he's had his fights where that's the case. Volkanovski was doing exactly what he should have been doing, evading the power punches of Ilia Topuria and making him look slow and making him look silly and making him second guess what's coming next because he's landing so many leg kicks and jabs and he's mixing it up. Even in the clinch exchanges, Volkanovski's landing like 3 knees back to back to back. That was honestly one of the best versions of Volk I've seen, to be honest, okay? Like, I'm a Volkanovski fan. I wish I could just sit here and say Volk looks slow. He didn't look slow. He looked fast. And Ilia Topuria still fucking knocked him out. All right? And that's just because this is the thing that people don't understand about Ilia Topuria. He's very durable. And he's hard to hurt. Ilia Topuria is extremely durable. We were talking about how Volkanovski, if he just lands like 12 leg kicks in the first round and Ilia Topuria's got the bladed stance, he could really mess him up and ruin his movement. The leg kicks didn't do anything for Volk. You know, Volk was busting him up. Ilia Topuria's face, it's still true to this day that when Volk fights people, he messes their faces up. Ilia Topuria got his face busted up. You know, he had a couple of bruises. Still, didn't dissuade him. It's only a matter of time before Ilia Topuria gets his timing. And when this guy gets you into the pocket, he's like Gervonta Davis of the UFC. You know, Gervonta Davis, he kind of carries people into the 7th round, and the 7th round is like that round in boxing. It's like the 2nd round equivalent to MMA. Gervonta Davis makes his reads. He's not like this super high output guy. He'll land a couple of big punches, but, you know, you could piece him up early. You could piece up Gervonta early. I could probably piece him up in the 1st round. 7th round, though, Gervonta Davis finally gets his moment where he has you in the pocket. You've slowed down a little bit. And as soon as he's able to let one of those combinations rip, he gets you out of there if he lands clean. That's how Ilia Topuria is. Now, he's in there with the best chin in UFC history, though. And this is the thing. I'm changing my pick to Max. No, I'm joking. How is he going to beat Max Holloway? Volkanovski, I need to say this. Volkanovski was making Ilia Topuria look a little bit slow. And Volkanovski, in my opinion, is easier to KO for someone like Ilia Topuria than Max Holloway. Now, hear me out. Even though Holloway is sort of like, you know, he's like tall and he's sort of there for Ilia Topuria's overhand, Volkanovski just pulls his chin back. It's right on a silver platter. It was just the perfect mistake that Volk always makes for Ilia Topuria to go in there and knock him out. He capitalized off of a mistake that Volkanovski makes all the time. And that's why he knocked him out. Not because Volk looked slow and was timid. No, Volk was fast. He looked great in that fight. Ilia Topuria, his boxing was good enough to checkmate him. But I think Holloway, Holloway is not just going to put his back up against the cage. But he will, though. So that's the thing, unfortunately. Because Arnold Allen, now this is the thing that people don't remember, but Arnold Allen's very fast. I would argue that Arnold Allen is actually faster than Ilia Topuria when it comes to just tit-for-tat battles. In the 5th round of Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen had Max Holloway's back up against the fence, and they were just sort of moving around the octagon circularly, and Arnold Allen was just like at will. Not at will, like not every second, but every 10 seconds, every 15 seconds, Arnold Allen would land a right hand on Max Holloway, and he was winning the majority of the 5th round. Having Max circling around the cage and just landing right hands, being faster, just being a little bit faster, hitting him with more impactful shots. I think Ilia Topuria is going to be able to do that in this fight. It's just that I think that when Max Holloway starts to get frustrated, I think he's going to start to march down Ilia Topuria, and I think Ilia Topuria, I just see him rocking Max. To be honest, I said, wait for the breakdown. I've got a whole lot to talk about. Let's talk, okay? Let's talk. Holloway, he's good. He's fast. He struggles with shorter opponents. You know, when he fought Frankie Edgar, when he fought Volkanovski, Holloway has a hard time teeing off on these shorter opponents, and he kind of gets into this groove where he starts to land the big power shots. Max Holloway, one of the things he was able to do so well against Justin Gaethje was start going to the body early, jab into the body, right hand to the body. It's almost impossible to do that to Ilia Topuria because then you're bringing your chin down. You're right there level for Ilia Topuria to clock you with the right hook, and he's got the nastiest right hook in the sport. It's hard to commit to these body shots on a short, hunched-over, bladed stance Ilia Topuria. And even though Holloway's going to be kicking Ilia, the kicks aren't going to do anything. Holloway was kicking Justin Gaethje. Let's be honest. Holloway's got decent kicks. They're not that fast. All right? He's not Yair Rodriguez whipping a kick up there 100 miles per hour that's going to graze off the top of Ilia Topuria's head and TKO him. Like a kick that Jai Herbert hit Ilia with and rocked him. He's not got these like devastating leg kicks like an Aldo or a Barboza. All right? And if Volkanovski, who's got really good leg kicks, wasn't able to impact Ilia Topuria, I don't think Holloway's kicks are going to do much. Now, Holloway will be able to outland Topuria because, listen, Volk's a volume guy, Holloway's a volume guy. I do think he's going to outland Topuria just a little bit, teeps. body kicks or whatever. I don't think Holloway's got enough sting on his kicks to really hurt Topuria. I think Holloway, fair enough, he's had his moments against guys like Aldo, a little bit shorter, where he starts piecing them up and all that, but it's a tough one. I don't see Holloway getting into this groove like he got into against Kattar. I think Holloway's way to win this fight is to sit down on a shot and knock Topuria out or to rock him with a right hand. I think he could make a mistake and Holloway clocks him with a right hand. Holloway's got a really good one too. He could spin your head back every now and then. Or Holloway just catches him with an uppercut. Or Holloway, these guys actually do trade in the pocket because, Ilia Topuria has been saying, I'm going to point down to the center of the octagon in the first 10 seconds. I actually think that might happen. I think Holloway would be wise to turn that down because, let's be honest, I think Ilia will be a little bit faster early on. And he's going to look like, he backed out early, but then we'll forget about it 2 seconds later because we'll still be nervous about watching the fight. And listen, this is a title fight. He doesn't have to do some stupid shit like that. But I think Holloway's way to win this fight is really by channeling that Edgar cut Jerome Holloway energy. I think Holloway channels that fucking Edgar cut, screaming, mad at Brian Ortega type of energy. All right? I think that's what Max Holloway needs to do to sort of sit down on a shot and knock out Ilia Topuria. And we know Ilia is powerful, but Max is like, you never brawl with Max. And he reminds us of that. I think Holloway's way to win this fight is by a big KO. Whereas I think Ilia is going to be able to mix it up every now and then, even though Holloway's got really good takedown defense. I don't think Ilia is going to control Holloway easily. I don't think he's going to beat him up on the ground because Holloway's got a really good ability to get up to his feet. We've seen it in a lot of his fights, and people don't remember, but Volkanovski was shooting a lot of takedowns in their second fight, and Holloway was popping right back up. Ortega got Holloway down a couple of times, and Ortega doesn't have the best wrestling, but he got him down a couple of times. Holloway just pops right back up. He's got good takedown defense, good cardio, probably better cardio than Ilia. But I think Ilia will have that in his back pocket, every now and then just to frustrate Max if he needs it. But Max's way to win, later round TKO if Ilia gasses, just by surviving the early onslaught or sitting down on a shot and getting angry. All right, Ilia Topuria, he's starting to win, and they start to brawl, and Holloway wins the exchange because you never brawl with Max. But I think Ilia Topuria is going to beat Max on damage. I don't think he's going to knock him out. It could happen. I just, even though I think it's possible, people are saying that because Holloway's sort of like a tall, wiry guy that they could see him getting slept like Jai Herbert, where he's just going to easily be pushed back to the fence. And Ilia Topuria is just going to bulldoze him. But I think Holloway's footwork is going to be really good in this fight. I just think Topuria is going to be clocking him with the right and ripping him up to the body and out-damaging him, and he's going to be landing the big shots. That's what I said about the Justin Gaethje fight. But Gaethje, to be honest, Gaethje's like this upright. His midsection is like 20 feet long. He's easy to body shot. And, Gaethje's sort of like, one of these guys. He's kind of bobbling up there. Not Ilia. Ilia's always, moving his head side to side. He's always moving his head off the center line. He's elusive. He's tough to hit. And he's kind of got that Chito Vera defense where his forehead is just kind of right there. That's how he defends himself. He just takes all the damage on his forehead. And I think he's going to be landing that right hand on Max. Max struggles with shorter opponents. I just think it's going to be an awkward matchup for Holloway, honestly. I think it's just going to be a bit awkward for Max. I want Max to win. I want Max to have a Calvin Kattar-esque beatdown over Topuria because I'm a bigger fan of Holloway. I like Topuria a lot. He's very entertaining. And I think him winning is going to be great for the sport because Holloway's been there. He's done all that. He's done all that there is to do, basically, other than win one of these types of matchups. These are the ones we never really get, right? These are the results we never really get, unfortunately, like the Volk beating Makhachev, the Volk beating Topuria, the Charles beating Makhachev. We never sort of get these ones. I want Max to get it done. I want him to TKO Ilia Topuria and have this viral KO where it's going to get 5 million likes on Instagram. And Holloway's going to be the man, and he's going to skyrocket on the GOAT list. He's going to be deep into the top 5. I think Topuria is just going to be a little awkward for him because he's the shorter, stocky guy. So, yeah, this time I don't think Holloway's flimsy kicks are going to be winning him this matchup. And I don't think Holloway's going to be establishing this, snowball avalanche sort of boxing on Ilia Topuria, this downhill avalanche. I think he's going to struggle. And I think Topuria is going to be catching him big time. And Holloway's, when he fights these very powerful guys, these very fast guys, he doesn't have the same sort of, he doesn't have the same acceptance of just saying, fuck it, I'm going to bulldoze this guy and rely on my chin. Like he did that in the last 10 seconds against Justin Gaethje, but, for 24 minutes and 50 seconds of that fight, Holloway was being clean and surgical. And we rarely see Holloway fight the way he fought against Aldo back in the day where, in the middle rounds, he just said, screw it. Like, I'm finishing this guy. Like, there's nothing that he's going to do to stop me from moving forward and letting my hands go until he drops. I don't see Max doing that. He didn't do that to Volkanovski in their trilogy. He didn't do that to Arnold Allen. He gave him respect. But don't be surprised if Ilia Topuria and Max brawl and Max knocks him out. Because, again, Ilia Topuria, if he lands that right hook on Holloway, Holloway's maybe going to sleep. I could see it. But if Max Holloway lands something on Ilia, because Holloway in a brawl, he just, something levels up. Holloway the MMA gods look out for Max in the brawls. Don't be surprised if he sleeps Ilia, because I could see him sitting down in a shot and knocking Ilia out. That's how I kind of see Max winning. Or if Ilia maybe it's a very competitive fight. Maybe Ilia's just winning on damage, but then 4th, 5th round, he comes crashing down and Max says, fuck it. And then we see Max eating the punishment more and more and more, and then Holloway just sort of avalanches a little bit. But I think we're going to get an Ilia Topuria damaged-based decision. So, yeah, Ilia's going to get it done. But I just can't wait to see this fight. Like, this is one of the most interesting fights ever, in my opinion. Not a whole lot of grappling, I don't think, is going to happen here. Ilia Topuria does have the wrestling, but I don't think he's going to use it a lot. And even if he does, I don't think he's going to easily control Max. So I think we're in for a striking showcase. Can't wait for this. Let me know what you guys think. Until next